The red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the U.S. Defiant as Captain James Walker stood at the command station, his hands gripping the metal railing. Through the main viewport, he watched the burning wreckage of Earth's defense fleet drift silently through space. Just hours ago, 30 ships had stood ready to defend humanity. Now only the Defiant remained. Ada, damage report, Walker called out to the ship's AI system. A soft blue light pulsed from the ceiling as the artificial intelligence responded. Hull integrity at 97%. All systems operating within normal parameters. Ada's calm voice filled the bridge. The experimental mirror shield absorbed most of the enemy fire during our retreat. Walker nodded, though his jaw remained tight. The Defiant had survived because of its advanced technology, but the cost had been steep. Too steep. He looked around at his bridge crew. The men and women he'd trained with for the past 3 years. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also determination. Captain, Lieutenant Emma Reed called from the weapons station. Long-range sensors are picking up unusual activity at the edge of the solar system. Multiple objects emerging from hyperspace. Walker straightened his back. This was it, the main invasion force they'd been warned about. The earlier attack had just been a scout group, testing Earth's defenses. Now the real threat was arriving. Ada, give me a count on those ships, he ordered. Processing. Ada replied. The AI took exactly 2.3 seconds to analyze the sensor data. I detect 523 vessels of various classes. 87% match known collective warship designs. Engineer Tom Miller's voice came through the ship's internal comm system. Captain, the Nexus core is fully charged. Mirror shield systems are ready for extended combat operations. Walker allowed himself a small smile. The Defiant might be outnumbered, but she wasn't outgunned. Not in the traditional sense, anyway. The ship represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, a perfect blend of defensive and offensive capabilities that no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. All hands, this is the captain speaking. Walker's voice carried throughout the ship. What you're about to see on your sensors isn't a mistake. The collective is sending their main fleet, over 500 ships, to finish what they started. They think that because they destroyed most of our fleet, Earth will be an easy target. He paused, letting his words sink in. They're wrong. The Defiant was built for exactly this moment. Every test, every trial, every simulation we've run has prepared us for this fight. We're not just another warship. We're humanity's best chance for survival. The bridge crew straightened in their seats. They knew what was at stake. Earth had barely recovered from the climate wars 50 years ago, when the collective first appeared in human space. The alien empire had offered humanity a simple choice: surrender and be absorbed into their civilization, or be destroyed. Earth's response had been to pour every resource into developing new technology. While other species focused on building bigger weapons and stronger shields, humanity took a different approach. The Defiant was the result, a ship that could turn an enemy's strength against them. Dr. Gray, status of the Nexus core. Walker asked the scientist who had helped develop the ship's predictive combat system. The quantum matrices are aligned perfectly, Dr. Marcus Gray reported from his station. The core is already processing possible enemy formations and attack patterns. We'll be able to predict their moves before they make them. Walker watched as the tactical display showed the collective fleet moving closer. Their ships arranged themselves in their standard attack formation, a three-dimensional arrow designed to concentrate their firepower. It was an impressive sight, but Walker knew it would also be their weakness. Ada, start recording, Walker commanded. If this works, Earth will want to know exactly how we did it. If it doesn't, he left the sentence unfinished. Recording initiated, Ada confirmed. Captain, I should note that based on my calculations, our chances of survival against a fleet this size are approximately. Don't tell me the odds, Ada, Walker interrupted with a slight grin. Just help us prove them wrong. The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, each person focused on their tasks. They had trained countless hours for this scenario, though none of them had truly believed they would face such overwhelming odds. Through the viewport, the first signs of the collective fleet became visible, tiny points of light that grew larger with each passing moment. Their ships were biological in appearance, with curved lines and organic shapes that contrasted sharply with the Defiant's angular, human design. Enemy fleet will be in weapons range in 10 minutes, Lieutenant Reed reported. They're launching fighter squadrons. Walker nodded. Just as we expected. Ada, begin power distribution sequence alpha. Engineer Miller, prepare the mirror shield for maximum capacity. Aye, Captain. Miller's voice came back. Diverting power from non-essential systems. Shield matrix is charging. The Defiant's revolutionary mirror shield wasn't just a defensive barrier. It was an intricate web of quantum-linked energy fields that could capture incoming enemy fire and store it. That energy could then be redirected back at the attackers, turning their own weapons against them. The more powerful the enemy's attack, the more dangerous the Defiant became. 5 minutes to weapons range. Reed updated. Captain, they're transmitting a message. Put it through, Walker ordered. A deep, resonating voice filled the bridge. Human vessel, this is Admiral Kresh of the Collective. Your resistance is futile. Surrender now, and we will spare your crew. Continue to fight, and you will join the rest of your fleet in death. Walker pressed the comm button on his chair. Admiral Kresh, this is Captain James Walker of the U.S. Defiant. We appreciate your offer, but we'll have to decline. In fact, we have a counter-proposal for you. You dare to make demands. Kresh's voice carried a mixture of amusement and annoyance. One ship against our fleet. Not a demand, Walker replied calmly. Just a friendly warning. What you're about to see might change your perspective on warfare. You could save a lot of lives by turning around now. The only response was silence, followed by the termination of the communication channel. 2 minutes to weapons range, Reed announced. Enemy fighters are moving to attack position. Walker took a deep breath. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. Ada, initialize the Nexus core. Full predictive analysis of enemy movements. Engineer Miller, mirror shield to full power. Dr. Gray, I want real-time updates on the quantum matrices. The bridge hummed with energy as the Defiant systems came fully online. The ship's AI worked in perfect harmony with the human crew, processing billions of calculations per second to prepare for the coming battle. Enemy fighters entering range in 30 seconds, Reed reported. Walker stood tall, his voice firm and clear. All hands, battle stations, remember your training. Remember Earth. Let's show the Collective why they should have never underestimated humanity. The first wave of alien fighters streaked toward the Defiant, their weapons charging with deadly energy. Behind them, the massive Collective fleet moved forward like an unstoppable tide of destruction. But as the enemy fighters opened fire, something unexpected happened. The space around the Defiant seemed to ripple like water, and the incoming plasma bolts disappeared into shimmering fields of energy. The mirror shield didn't just block the attacks, it absorbed them, storing their power for the perfect moment to strike back. Shield capacity at 20% and rising, Miller reported excitedly. The system is working perfectly. Walker allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. The real battle was about to begin, but they had already proven their most important technology worked against actual Collective weapons. Now they just had to survive long enough to use it. All right, he said, his eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. Let's show them what one ship can do. The first explosion lit up space like a newborn star. The Defiant's mirror shield had absorbed enough energy from the fighter attacks to release its first counterattack. The stored plasma energy erupted from the shield in a perfect arc, catching 3 Collective fighters in its path. They never had a chance to evade. Direct hits on multiple targets, Lieutenant Reed reported, her fingers dancing across the weapons console. Enemy fighters are adjusting their attack pattern. Engineer Miller's voice crackled through the comm system. Shield capacity at 40% and climbing. Each fighter blast is adding to our reserve. We can maintain this output for hours if needed. Captain Walker watched as the remaining fighters broke formation, trying to attack from different angles. The Nexus Core had predicted this exact response. Ada, implement defense pattern Delta. Let's show them why that won't work either. The Defiant moved with impossible grace for a ship its size, spinning and weaving between enemy attacks. Each blast that did connect was simply absorbed by the mirror shield, making the ship more dangerous with every passing second. Captain, Dr. Gray called out from his station. The Nexus Core is detecting power spikes from the main fleet. They're preparing to enter the fight. Walker nodded grimly. The fighters had been a test, a way to probe the Defiant's defenses. Now the real battle would begin. All hands, brace for heavy combat. Engineer Miller, how much more energy can the mirror shield store? We're currently at 60% capacity, Miller replied. The system was designed to handle capital ship weapons. These fighter attacks are like filling a bathtub with a dropper. The main collective fleet moved forward, their massive ships casting long shadows across space. The first volley of heavy weapons fire lit up the darkness, a wall of destructive energy heading straight for the lone human vessel. Impact in 5 seconds, Reed warned. Energy readings are off the scale. Walker gripped his command rail tighter. Ada, full power to the mirror shield. Let's catch everything they throw at us. The space around the Defiant turned into a kaleidoscope of color as hundreds of energy weapons struck the shield simultaneously. The ship shuddered but held firm. On the engineering deck, Miller watched in amazement as the energy storage readings climbed rapidly. Shield capacity just hit 90%. He shouted over the comm. Captain, we've never tested the system with this much power before. Walker's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The collective fleet had arranged itself in a half-circle, trying to surround the Defiant. They still didn't understand what they were dealing with. Dr. Gray, what's the Nexus Core telling us about their formation? They're falling into a standard containment pattern, Gray replied, examining the quantum predictions. The core calculates a 93% chance they'll try to trap us between their heavy cruisers and battleships. They think we're trying to break through their lines. A small smile crossed Walker's face. Ada, bring us to a complete stop. Engineer Miller, prepare for full discharge of the mirror shield on my mark. Captain, Ada's calm voice interjected. Remaining stationary will make us an easy target for their next barrage. Exactly, Walker replied. Lieutenant Reed, send a message to the collective fleet. Text only. Tell them we're experiencing engine trouble and request their terms of surrender. The bridge crew exchanged knowing looks. They had practiced this strategy in simulations, but never with this much stored energy. The collective's response came quickly. Another massive volley of weapons fire, even larger than the first. Impact in 10 seconds, Reed announced. They're concentrating everything they have on us. Walker's voice remained steady. Hold position. Engineer Miller, shield status. 98% capacity. 99. 100%. Miller's excitement was clear. Sir, the containment field is stable, but we've never held this much power before. We need to release it soon. The second barrage struck the Defiant, the energy disappearing into the mirror shield like water into an endless void. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship as the power storage systems were pushed to their limits. Shield capacity at 110%, Miller shouted. We're beyond theoretical maximums. Ada, calculate optimal firing solution, Walker commanded. Target their heaviest concentrations. Dr. Gray, I want Nexus Core predictions for their most likely escape routes. The ship's AI took less than a second to process the request. Firing solution complete. Recommended release pattern will affect approximately 60% of their fleet in the initial burst. Walker took a deep breath. This was the moment that would prove whether the Defiant's revolutionary technology would work as designed, or if they had pushed it too far. Engineer Miller, begin power release sequence. Lieutenant Reed, prepare for manual targeting of secondary shots. Release sequence initiated, Miller confirmed, redirecting power to main emitters. The space around the Defiant began to glow with stored energy. The collective fleet, believing they had the human ship trapped, continued their advance. They didn't realize they had just helped create the perfect weapon against themselves. Release in 3, 2, 1. Miller counted down. Walker's voice cut through the tension. Fire. The mirror shield erupted with the combined power of hundreds of collective weapons. The stored energy burst forth in a devastating wave, but this was no random explosion. The shield focused the power into precise beams, each one targeting a specific enemy ship with their own energy signatures. The effect was catastrophic for the collective fleet. Dozens of ships were struck by weapons fire that matched their own shield's frequencies perfectly. Defensive barriers designed to stop enemy weapons were useless against their own energy patterns reflected back at them. Multiple direct hits, Reed reported, her voice rising with excitement. 37 enemy ships disabled or destroyed in the initial blast. Their formation is breaking apart. The collective fleet's neat formation dissolved into chaos as ships tried to evade the unexpected counterattack. But the Defiant wasn't finished. The mirror shield continued to release its stored energy in controlled bursts, each shot guided by Ada's precision and the Nexus Core's predictions. Admiral Kresh is signaling, Reed announced. They're demanding to know what kind of weapon we're using. Walker allowed himself a grim smile. No response needed, Lieutenant. They'll figure it out soon enough. He turned his attention back to the tactical display. Ada, status of remaining enemy ships. 342 vessels still combat capable, the AI reported. However, their attack patterns have become erratic. The Nexus Core predicts they are preparing to regroup at a safer distance. Not going to let that happen, Walker said firmly. Engineer Miller, how long until we can store another full charge? The system is already cooling down, Miller replied. We can begin absorbing energy again in 30 seconds. But Captain, that discharge put enormous strain on the containment fields. We might not want to push quite so far past the safety limits next time. Walker nodded. Noted. Lieutenant Reed, target the closest group of enemy ships. Standard weapons only for now. Let's encourage them to shoot back at us. The Defiant's conventional weapons might not have been enough to seriously damage the collective ships, but they didn't need to be. Each hit provoked return fire, and each blast of enemy energy was simply more ammunition for the mirror shield. Enemy ships are responding, Reed confirmed. They're launching another coordinated attack. Perfect, Walker said quietly. Ada, begin dodge pattern Epsilon. Engineer Miller, ready for another collection cycle. Dr. Gray, I want continuous Nexus Core updates on their fleet movements. The battle was far from over, but the tide had turned. The collective fleet had come expecting to find a single desperate human ship. Instead, they had found something unprecedented, a vessel that could absorb their attacks and turn their own power against them. Their superior numbers had become a liability, and their greatest strength was now their greatest weakness. Walker watched as the enemy fleet struggled to adapt to this new reality. Send a message to Earth Command, he ordered. Tell them the mirror shield works better than we ever imagined, and tell them to prepare for refugees. I have a feeling some of the collective ships will be looking for a new place to call home very soon. Admiral Kresh slammed his fist against his command chair. The bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, shook as another explosion rocked the massive vessel. He watched in disbelief as the human warship continued to tear through his fleet using their own weapons against them. Status report, he demanded from his crew. We've lost 98 ships, his second-in-command reported. The human vessel's energy readings make no sense. It's like fighting against a mirror. Everything we throw at it comes back stronger. On the Defiant, Captain Walker was studying the tactical display with growing confidence. The mirror shield had proven even more effective than their simulations had suggested, but he knew better than to get overconfident. Ada, analysis of remaining enemy forces, he ordered. The collective fleet has split into 3 groups, the AI reported. 2 smaller formations are attempting to flank our position while their main force holds at maximum weapons range. The Nexus Core predicts they are attempting to find weaknesses in our shield coverage. Engineer Miller's voice came through the comm. Captain, the shield matrix is holding steady at 70% capacity. We're actually gaining more power than we're using now that they've switched to controlled bursts instead of full barrages. Walker nodded. The enemy was learning, but not fast enough. Dr. Gray, what's the Nexus Core telling us about their next likely move? Based on known collective tactics and their current formation, there's an 87% chance they'll try to overwhelm a single point in our defenses. Gray responded. They're probably hoping the mirror shield has limited coverage areas. Let them try, Walker said. Lieutenant Reed, prepare to receive fire from multiple vectors. Engineer Miller will need precise control for this next sequence. The collective ships began their coordinated attack. Dozens of ships fired simultaneously, their energy weapons converging on a single point of the Defiance shield. The human ship's outer barrier lit up like a Christmas tree, absorbing the massive energy assault. Shield capacity climbing rapidly, Miller reported. They're giving us more than enough power for another full counterattack. But something was different this time. Among the energy weapons, solid projectiles began streaming toward the Defiant, chunks of metal moving at incredible speeds. Physical rounds detected, Ada announced. Impact in 5 seconds. Walker's eyes narrowed. They're testing different weapon types. Ada, activate point defense systems. Engineer Miller, maintain shield focus on the energy weapons. The Defiant's defensive turrets came to life, shooting down the incoming projectiles with precise laser fire. But this was just the beginning of the collective's new strategy. Multiple signatures detected. Reed called out. They're launching some kind of pods toward us. Analysis, Walker demanded. The pods appear to be automated drone weapons, Ada reported. They are generating unusual energy patterns that don't match known collective weapons. Dr. Gray spoke up from his station. The Nexus Core is having trouble predicting their behavior. These must be prototype weapons they've been holding in reserve. Walker made a quick decision. Lieutenant Reed, priority targets are those pods. Use conventional weapons to destroy them before they get close. Engineer Miller, prepare for emergency shield discharge if needed. The space around the Defiant became a chaotic battlefield as the ship's weapons targeted the incoming pods while the mirror shield continued absorbing energy attacks. Several pods exploded under the defensive fire, but 3 made it through. Pods are activating, Reed warned. The devices burst open, releasing clouds of metallic dust that began to swirl around the Defiant. As the particles moved, they started generating interference patterns that disrupted the ship's sensor readings. Sensor efficiency dropped to 60%, Ada reported. The particles appear to be designed to interfere with our targeting systems. Walker smiled grimly. It was a clever tactic, but not clever enough. Dr. Gray, have the Nexus Core switched to probability mapping. We don't need perfect targeting for what comes next. Engineer Miller, prepare for wide-range discharge. But sir, Miller protested, without precise targeting, we could waste most of the stored energy. That's exactly what we want them to think, Walker replied. Ada, begin spin rotation. Let's show them another trick. The Defiant began to rotate slowly, the metallic cloud swirling around it. The collective ships moved closer, believing they had found a weakness in the human vessel's defenses. Enemy fleet is converging on our position, Reed reported. They're charging weapons. Hold position, Walker ordered. Engineer Miller, route power to the shield's outer matrix. Prepare for multiphase discharge. The collective ships opened fire, their weapons blazing through the metallic cloud. But instead of absorbing the energy in focused points, the mirror shield began to glow uniformly across its entire surface. Shield capacity at maximum, Miller announced. Ready for discharge on your mark. Walker waited until the enemy ships had committed fully to their attack. Now, Full radial burst. The Defiant's mirror shield released its stored energy in a perfect sphere of destructive force. The metallic cloud that had been meant to blind them instead acted as a conductor, carrying the energy outward in crackling arcs that connected with dozens of collective ships simultaneously. Multiple direct hits, Reed called out excitedly. Enemy ships losing power across all sectors. On the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Kresh watched in horror as his trap backfired spectacularly. The human ship had turned their countermeasure into a weapon, using the conductive particles to enhance their attack rather than hinder it. "All ships, emergency withdrawal," he ordered. But before his fleet could respond, the Defiant launched its next attack. "Target their command ship," Walker ordered. "Full power to forward shields. Engineer Miller, prepare for ramming speed." Ramming speed. Miller's voice cracked. "Captain, the mirror shield isn't designed for physical impacts." "No," Walker agreed, "but it's designed to absorb energy. And at these speeds, a collision generates quite a bit of energy, doesn't it?" Understanding dawned on the engineer's face. "Converting kinetic impact to stored power. That's brilliant. And completely insane." The Defiant surged forward, its mirror shield glowing brighter as it accelerated toward the collective flagship. Enemy ships scattered in panic, their formation breaking completely. "Impact in 10 seconds, Reed announced. "All hands, brace for theoretical physics," Walker called over the ship-wide comm. The Defiant slammed into the Eternal Dominion shields at relativistic speed. The massive energy of the impact was instantly absorbed by the mirror shield, converted into pure power that the human ship could use. "Shield capacity off the charts," Miller shouted. "Converting kinetic energy to weapons charge. Firing." The stored power released in a focused beam that cut through the collective flagship shields like they weren't even there. The massive ship's engines died, its weapons went dark, and its mighty hull began to drift. "Enemy flagship disabled," Ada reported calmly. "Remaining collective forces are retreating to safe jump distances." Walker watched as the enemy fleet fled in disarray, leaving their admiral's ship floating helplessly in space. "Lieutenant Reed, open a channel to Admiral Kresh." When the connection was established, Walker spoke clearly and firmly. "Admiral, I believe now would be a good time to discuss those surrender terms you mentioned earlier. Your ships are welcome to return to collective space, or they can stay and learn how humanity handles victory." There was a long pause before Kresh's response came through. Perhaps we have misjudged humanity's capabilities." "That's putting it mildly," Walker replied. "But we're willing to teach, if you're willing to learn." The Defiant's shuttle bay doors opened slowly as Admiral Kresh's personal transport approached. Captain Walker stood with his senior staff, watching as the collective leader came to surrender formally. The massive alien vessel that had once been the flagship of a mighty invasion fleet now drifted powerless nearby, a testament to humanity's technological triumph. "Ada, maintain full shield coverage," Walker ordered quietly. "Just because they're surrendering doesn't mean we drop our guard." "Shield matrix active," the AI confirmed. "All weapon systems remain on standby." The collective shuttle landed smoothly, its organic design contrasting sharply with the geometric lines of the human bay. When the doors opened, Admiral Kresh emerged, his tall frame having to duck under the entrance. 2 guards flanked him, but they carried no visible weapons. "Welcome aboard the Defiant, Admiral," Walker said as Kresh approached. "I trust you'll find our discussion more productive than our previous exchange." Kresh's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion in his species. "I must know, Captain Walker, how long has humanity possessed this technology?" "Our intelligence suggested your species was centuries behind us in energy manipulation." Walker gestured toward the conference room. "That's an interesting question, Admiral. But first, let's make sure your remaining ships understand their situation. Engineer Miller." Miller stepped forward with a tablet. "The mirror shield is currently holding enough stored energy to disable another 50 ships. just in case anyone's getting any ideas about a rescue attempt. The alien admiral's skin changed color slightly, the equivalent of a human paling. No rescue will be attempted, I assure you. My orders to withdraw have been acknowledged by all remaining vessels, but you must understand our confusion. One ship should not be able to defeat an entire fleet. They entered the conference room, where Dr. Gray had set up a holographic display of the battle's key moments. The scientist began explaining as everyone took their seats. "You see, Admiral, we didn't build a better weapon," Gray said, manipulating the hologram to show the mirror shield in action. "We built a better mirror. Every shot your fleet fired made us stronger. The laws of physics haven't changed. We just found a more efficient way to use them." Kresh leaned forward, studying the display intently. "But the energy requirements, the computational power needed to redirect such forces. That's where I come in." Ada's voice filled the room, causing the collective officers to start slightly. "My quantum processors work in parallel with the Nexus core to manage the energy flow. Human creativity combined with artificial intelligence." The Admiral's color shifted again, this time to a deeper hue. "You trust artificial intelligence to control your most powerful weapons. Our study showed humans were particularly afraid of such technology." Walker smiled. "We were, still are in some ways. But we learned to work with our fears rather than be controlled by them. Just like we learned to work with AI rather than try to control it. Ada is our partner, not our servant. Just as the mirror shield works with enemy energy rather than trying to block it," Lieutenant Reed added. "It's all about adaptation and cooperation rather than pure opposition." The alien leader was quiet for a long time, processing this information. Finally, he spoke. "The collective has existed for 10,000 years. We have absorbed hundreds of species into our empire. Never have we encountered one that could turn our own strength against us so effectively." "That's because you've always looked for species to absorb," Walker replied. "You never considered looking for partners." Miller brought up another display, showing the damage to both fleets. "Your ships can be repaired. Your crews can be saved. But first, you need to understand that humanity won't be conquered. Not by you, not by anyone." "And what are your terms?" Kresh asked, his tone now respectful rather than condescending. Walker stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "First, immediate withdrawal of all collective forces from human space. Second, recognition of Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory. Third, and most importantly, technological exchange." This last point seemed to surprise the Admiral. "You would share the mirror shield technology with us?" "No," Walker said firmly. "But we would be willing to work with you to develop new technologies that benefit both our species, together, as equals." Dr. Gray brought up another hologram, this one showing potential applications of their combined technologies. "Your organic ship designs, combined with our energy manipulation techniques, could revolutionize space travel. Your experience with multiple species, combined with our adaptive AI systems, could create unprecedented opportunities for communication and cooperation." "And if we refuse?" Kresh asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Walker turned back from the window. "Then you leave anyway, but without the benefits of partnership, and you do so knowing that the next time you encounter a human ship, it might have capabilities you haven't even imagined yet. The mirror shield is impressive, Admiral, but it's not our only breakthrough." The alien leader's color shifted to a neutral tone, a sign of deep thought among his species. "The collective council will need to be convinced. Our way of life has remained unchanged for millennia." "Change is what humans do best," Walker replied. "We can help you adapt, just like we helped Ada evolve. Just like we turned our fear of AI into a partnership that saved our planet today." Lieutenant Reed's console beeped softly. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from multiple collective ships. They're requesting permission to send representatives to observe the negotiations." Walker looked at Kresh questioningly. The Admiral's color shifted to a lighter shade. Amusement, perhaps, or resignation. It seems, Kresh said slowly, that some of my commanders are showing signs of human-like adaptability already. Perhaps this is how new eras begin, not with conquest, but with curiosity. Ada, Walker called out, prepare to receive additional shuttles. Dr. Gray, expand your presentation to include our theoretical works on cross-species technological integration. Engineer Miller, would you show our guests how the mirror shield works at the technical level? Happy to, Miller replied with a grin. Though they might be surprised to learn how simple the basic principle is, sometimes the best solutions are the ones hiding in plain sight. As the meeting room began to fill with curious collective officers, Walker watched their reactions to the technical presentations. Where they had expected to find a defeated enemy, they had instead discovered potential allies who could help their society evolve. It wasn't the victory they had come for, but it might be something far more valuable. Ada, Walker said quietly, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them to prepare for a different kind of first contact, the kind where both sides learn from each other. Message sent, the AI replied. And Captain, based on my analysis of collective behavioral patterns, I predict a 97% chance of successful integration of our technologies within 5 years. Walker smiled. Make that 2 years, Ada. You'll be amazed how fast people can change when they're excited about the future. 1 year after the battle that changed 2 civilizations, the U.S. Defiant approached Earth's orbital shipyards. Captain Walker stood at his familiar spot on the bridge. But this time, he wasn't watching for enemy ships. Instead, he observed the massive construction projects taking place all around them. Dozens of ships floated in various stages of completion, their hulls showing both the geometric patterns of human design and the organic curves of collective technology. Teams of human and alien engineers worked together in spacesuits, installing the new hybrid systems that both species had developed together. Quite a view, isn't it? Engineer Miller said as he joined Walker on the bridge. Hard to believe this all started with us nearly getting blown up. Ada, give me a status report on the integration project, Walker requested. The first wave of hybrid vessels is 87% complete, the AI reported. The combined human collective engineering teams have exceeded all projected deadlines by an average of 34 days. Dr. Gray's latest improvements to the Nexus core have been successfully implemented across the entire fleet. Lieutenant Reed looked up from her station with a smile. Speaking of improvements, the new targeting systems are amazing. The collective's organic computing combined with our AI processing, we can plot combat solutions twice as fast as before. Combat solutions that hopefully we won't need, Walker replied, though he returned her smile. How are our guests doing, Ada? The collective exchange officers are adapting well to their posts, Ada reported. Their neural patterns show increasing comfort with human customs and technology. The cultural integration program is proceeding at an optimal pace. Through the viewport, Walker watched as a shuttle carrying more collective engineers docked with one of the new ships. The vessel's design was unlike anything either species had created before, a perfect blend of both civilizations' best ideas. Captain, Reed called out, incoming transmission from Admiral Kresh's new flagship. The main screen lit up to show the familiar face of the collective leader, though his appearance had changed slightly. He now wore a modified version of a human uniform, adapted for his species' unique physiology. Captain Walker, Kresh greeted him warmly, his color shifting to the friendly hues they'd all learned to recognize. I trust you received the latest updates on the mirror shield improvements. Walker nodded. Your engineer's suggestions for the organic power distribution system were brilliant. The efficiency increase is remarkable. As were your Dr. Gray's modifications to our neural interfaces, Kresh replied. The Collective Council has officially voted to implement the new hybrid systems across our entire territory. They're calling it the Walker-Kresh Protocol. Miller chuckled. Famous already, Captain. Though I still say they should have included Ada in the name. None of this would work without AI coordination. Speaking of AI, Kresh continued, the first group of collective ships with integrated AI systems just completed their trial runs. The results were beyond our highest expectations. It seems your approach to artificial intelligence partnership was as revolutionary as your mirror shield technology. Walker watched as another shuttle passed by, this one carrying a mixed crew of human and collective scientists. How are the more conservative elements of the collective handling all these changes? Better than expected. Kresh's color shifted to a thoughtful shade. It's hard to argue with success. Our combined fleet's capabilities have advanced more in the past year than in the previous century. Some of the older council members are even talking about updating our first contact protocols. No more invasion fleets, Walker asked with a raised eyebrow. We're learning that there are better ways to grow than through conquest, Kresh replied. Your species taught us that strength comes in many forms. Sometimes the best way to become stronger is to learn from those who seem weaker at first glance. Dr. Gray entered the bridge, carrying his ever-present tablet. Admiral, you'll be pleased to know that the latest Nexus Core predictions show a 99% chance of successful integration between our species within the next 5 years. The cultural exchange programs are working better than we hoped. As is the technological exchange, Miller added. The new hybrid power cores are operating at 120% of projected efficiency. Turns out your organic technology works perfectly with our quantum systems. Kresh's color brightened. The Council has approved the next phase of the project. We're ready to begin construction of the first joint exploration fleet. Ships crewed by both species, using our combined technologies, ready to seek out new civilizations together. And approach them as equals, Walker added firmly. Of course, Kresh agreed. We've learned that lesson well. Speaking of which, the first class of human cadets will be graduating from the Collective Academy next month. Would you do us the honor of attending the ceremony? Walker smiled. Wouldn't miss it. Ada, make a note in my schedule. Already done, Captain. The AI replied. And may I add that the neural interface upgrades the Collective provided have improved my interaction capabilities by 43%. The combination of their organic processing and our quantum computing is quite remarkable. Through the viewport, Walker watched as one of the new hybrid ships powered up its engines for the first time. The vessel's hull glowed with a combination of human energy patterns and collective organic luminescence, beautiful and powerful at the same time. Dr. Gray, Walker called out, what's the status of the mirror shield adaptation for the new ships? Even better than the original, Gray replied enthusiastically. The Collective's organic energy distribution systems made it possible to create a more flexible shield matrix. The new ships can absorb and redirect energy with 30% more efficiency than the Defiant. Speaking of the Defiant, Kresh interjected, the Council has a proposal for you, Captain. We'd like to designate your ship as the official training vessel for the Joint Fleet program. A ship that changed everything, teaching the next generation how to work together. Walker looked around his bridge, at the human crew who had become heroes, at the collective officers who had become friends, at the AI that had helped make it all possible. I think we'd be honored, Admiral. Though we'll need to update our training programs. Already working on it, Ada announced. I've combined human teaching methods with collective educational protocols to create an optimal learning experience for both species. And that's exactly why we succeeded, Walker said thoughtfully. Not because we had better weapons or stronger shields, but because we learned to take the best from both sides and make something new. Outside, more ships were taking shape in the shipyards. Each one represented not just a technological achievement, but a symbol of what was possible when species chose to work together instead of fighting. The mirror shield had started as a defensive weapon, but it had become something more, a metaphor for turning potential enemies into allies. Ada, Walker called out, ship-wide announcement please. Channel open, Captain. Walker looked out at the growing fleet, humanity's future taking shape before his eyes. To all crew members, human and collective alike. 1 year ago, we faced each other as enemies. Today, we stand together as partners, friends, and teachers for the next generation. Remember this moment. Remember that any problem can be solved, any difference can be bridged, if we're willing to learn from each other. Defiant out. As the announcement ended, another ship's lights came on in the shipyard. Its hull bore both human and collective markings, and its design represented the best of both worlds. It was no longer about one ship against a fleet. It was about two civilizations building a fleet together. "Ada," Walker said quietly, "send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the future is looking brighter than we ever imagined." "Message sent, Captain," the AI replied. "And based on current trends, I calculate 100% chance of success for our combined future." Walker smiled. For once, he didn't need the Nexus Core's predictions to know that Ada was right.